you go a bit more like sort of in a country with there's snakes. We have a lot of kangaroos and things like that. Um, and we have foxes, but foxes are the ones in the sort of more in the suburbs anyway. Are pretty they're pretty timid. Like they're afraid of even like little Chihuahua dogs and stuff.
We are having a fascinating conversation, as you guys can see. However, we are now currently live again. So
now we can talk about seahorses.
Let's start this over. Happy Wine Wednesday. Hope your day is going a lot better than mine because I thought I had the new computer set up to handle all of this. Apparently, I did not. Go figure. Dylan's, if you're in the audience, you can make fun of me for technical difficulties yet again. But we are back now, and we're going to try to hold Wine Wednesday because I missed you guys so much last week. Apologies, I got stuck at a volleyball game, and I hate it when we don't do Wine Wednesday because I miss catching up with all of you. So I'm just glad we're back. We'll use the old setup, and I'm frozen, aren't I? Okay, well,
glad you didn't leave your daughter there and tell her to hitchhike home.
Actually, just for the record, everyone, Cheryl's advice was to go ahead and just leave my daughter at the game and go home to do Wine Wednesday.
I was serious about it.
So
I was not serious.
Well, all I can say about the streaming, guys, is that we will do some testing this week. I thought I had it all set up, apparently not. But you'll see us jumping in and out this week to get it right so we can be all better next week. But I already have Holly, Cheryl, Ray, and Marina is with us today, so that's cool. In fact, since we are actually live now, let me do my quick announcements. First off, guys, you'll see a post coming if you're interested in the Seahorse and Pipefish. I'm not a model here, guys. Sorry. Seahorse and Pipefish gear. There will be giveaways of merchandise at the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA, along with also Women in Reefing. We're going to do the same thing. So definitely make sure you're registered. I'll put the links when we're done, and I'll show you where the merch is. But you could win one for free, your size and everything. Come to the events at MACNA. It's what date is the Seahorse and Pipefish, guys? The 5th?
The 5th.
Yeah.
It's the 5th, yeah.
And Women in Reefing is the 4th.
It's Sunday before Labor Day, so Labor Day Sunday.
Yes. Yes. And we've got a lot of, this week we're going to like hammer the posts showing you who's going to speak. We've got some exciting guests. Marina, I'm so glad you're here because this might be the last virtual event. MACNA might choose to continue on in some virtual sense, but I'm guessing, hoping, praying that next year will be live. So this may be the last year where our Australian and UK friends can actually join. And I know the time difference makes it difficult, but this is a once in a lifetime thing, so you got to come. And as far as Australians are concerned, we have both Ocean Reef Aquaculture coming to like give us a kind of like a Wine Wednesday tour, but even better because we'll have MACNA handling the technical difficulties, right? And also we have Chris and Rochelle from Seahorse World and Seahorse Australia coming to visit us, and there might be one other special guest. You'll have to watch the posts to see. But make sure you're registered. And with that, I'm sure you guys all want to hear about the posts I've been doing lately of my new seahorses. But before we go there, let's catch up with the group. So, Holly, you said before we lost the stream that you got your lights working. Did you go do the Amazon I can't think of the word. Recommendation? Give the details.
Oh, are you
Oh, no, that's the chiller.
This one was the chiller.
It's been a long day.
I did do that. So, yeah, I went on Amazon and I rated the chillers and I left a thing about tips, for programming it and, watch for a message from the seller because the directions that come with it might not be right for the one they send you.
Yeah, right. I'm letting him in. I thought I was. There he is. Hi, Dan. But so, and I want to say hi to Dan and welcome him in. But Holly, I did want to give you a chance. So, what ended up with the lights? You said it was a
So
breaker.
yeah, so they're kind of tough to program because the white lights have their own channel, the blue lights have their own channel, and then there's separate buttons for programming the timer and the moon and the
Yeah.
dawn and dusk and all that. So you got to push the things in the right order and then remember to hit enter and remember to hold the channel button down for 5 seconds at the end of it all. And so it's just a pain to do it.
Yeah.
And I had almost fully programmed it, and we had a power outage. And when we lost power, it erased all my
All the
programs that I'd
settings.
done. So I had to reprogram it, but I got it right, and now they're set dimmer than the default setting, and it's been helping. I think it's only been like that a week of it being dimmer because there was a while when I didn't have time to program it, when I just let it run its full brightness.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last week, though, today was tank maintenance day. So when I was siphoning, I noticed a lot of the algae loosened up and was easier to siphon. A lot of it came out. It's not growing as much.
Nice.
So the lighting, yeah, has definitely made a big difference. And I think it will continue to. I think the algae is gradually going to have a die off and grow less. So it'll take a little while for me to catch up with it, but
I've noticed that your seahorses too are have changed color and are much more yellow and orange than they were when you had the bright lights on.
well, actually not. You're probably looking at my younger seahorses that are in the other tank because the ones in the display tank are darker now because they're matching the algae.
Oh. Well, I will say I will.
My other ones are really bright.
Well, I
The
will
ones
say.
in the throw out tank are a lot brighter.
I
You're
will
right.
say I will say that Cheryl's advice was great for me when I played with my lighting, and Holly, I totally get what you're saying because I accidentally unplugged the light the other day and it started like flashing all these colors and like wanted me to fix it. I'm like, oh god. But anyways, I was just gonna say since I dimmed my lighting and fixed the flow, my seahorses have been so much happier. But we'll get back to me in a minute. Ray, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, my abs tank, all these years I've had them, I've never had algae in the tank.
Wow.
Some time ago, I downsized. I moved the two that were left into a 40 gallon with a 20 gallon sump. I now have algae.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's because of organics, or have you messed with lighting? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there is a light now that's sitting over the tank instead of one that was a couple feet above the 90 gallon tank. This one sits, it's just a compact fluorescent light that's probably 4 inches above the water. And it's just at one end of the tank. But as far as water changes go, I'm still doing the same 90% water changes, same as I did on the large tank. It's just that now 90% is a lot smaller volume when you're only looking at 60 theoretical gallons as opposed to 130. So I don't know.
I think just when you get into smaller tanks, it's hard. I mean, that's what I'm finding with the all-in-one. And I'm reading the comments as we go. I still got to introduce Dan and want to hear what Cheryl had to say. But I see that Salty. Thank you for joining us, Salty. Hope you're doing good. Jump in if you want. And he's helping Dylan because he's still having tank troubles. And Dylan, you're in an all-in-one too. And I can tell you, I totally understand at this point because I was at the point where I was ready to just be done with the all-in-one. I got new seahorses. Again, will put me off till later. But I did some switching around with tanks and cleaned a different tank because the prized ones, I didn't trust the all-in-one to handle them all. And so I've made some adjustments, which I'll talk about in the future. But Ray, I'm not sure with you. I do have a question that they're kind of talking about in the comment section. We all have talked about just, how much easier it is to keep seahorses without sand. But I am really considering putting sand in the all-in-one because while when you're talking about a 65-gallon tank or, 100-gallon or bigger tank, you don't need, and you have your K1 media or all your things set up and you've got a huge sump with a huge skimmer and all this to compensate, that is a better situation. But when you're talking about a smaller tank with just a couple seahorses, I'm really beginning to think that you guys, not me, you guys are all wrong. Just kidding. But Dan, welcome Dan to Wine Wednesday. So glad to have you. I'm curious if you think that sand might be better for a smaller tank because of the biological benefits and etc.
I think the big variable there is what you have for filtration.
Okay. So like in an all-in-one when you don't have a, go ahead, I'll let you talk, sorry.
Well, I've done small tanks with a bare bottom, but I was running a sump and I had, probably much more filtration than the average Joe. But, you know, I think when you're running an all-in-one with limited media in the back, and if you're running limited live rock, then I think that there's a benefit to having the sand.
Gotcha. Sorry, kid was distracting me. But and that's what I'm thinking. Dylan, I'm curious what you end up doing and how you end up fixing the tank. Please keep us updated. Feel free to jump in if you want, but I'm seriously considering adding sand to my all-in-one because while go ahead.
I was going to say I have sand in my 55-gallon display tank, and it's not that hard to take care of and keep clean. It vacuums really well. I don't have any trouble with it like I did with the coarser stuff, honestly. I don't think it'll be as much upkeep, as you might imagine it to be.
Well,
I highly recommend if you're going to put sand in a seahorse tank to put a fine sand in, not a coarse sand.
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll say this much, the reason that I was so turned off to sand is because in my reed-eye tank, I put sand in, I set it up all proper. It had rock and sand and ornaments, and the sand got this awful black algae. Maybe I didn't rinse it well enough. It very well could have been just a circumstance for me, but it was a tank without a sump, without a huge skimmer. I was trying to handle it manually. It was just like a 29-gallon sand rock, and I had so many problems. But I'm coming to the conclusion that it's just I don't get along with smaller tanks. But like I won't be adding sand to the 65. I like that I can handle the 65 and I've got the sump handling the filtration and I like the way it looks and I like that I can clean better. But in a smaller tank, I'm just wondering in the future if we shouldn't tell people to use a fine sand. And I'm curious to anybody watching, what's been your experience? Someone was trying to talk.
Also,
Go ahead, Marina.
I have sand in my seahorse tank and I love it. I think it's a lot easier to care for if you have a thin layer,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't find it too hard to look after at all.
Well, if you have a good cleanup crew too, I mean, that is, if you're gonna have sand, you need some sand tips.
Yeah.
You need stuff that's gonna eat any detritus that's in there because it's with a bare bottom. You can go in, turn on a power head, blow everything into one corner, and siphon everything off. Then you can just left over. You try that with sand, and you're going to create a snow field tank. And it's just, I pretty much am all bare bottom. I have one tank that has sand in it.
If I had a display tank with just a couple of seahorses, I would most likely put sand in the tank. That production's entirely different, but as far as the display tank goes, it's slightly stocked. I would definitely do sand.
I'm actually curious to dive a little teeny bit deeper into the flow thing too, because I do know that's one of the problems I had in the sanded tank. Holly, in your sanded tank, do you have, because when you have no sand, you can set up your flow to where, yes, you have low flow areas, but they're usually not on the floor. So you can keep all that detritus and all that stuff out of there with flow, whereas when you have sand, you can't do that. So Marina or Holly, how does the buildup work out? How does flow work with sand?
So I just added, not a power head, a wave maker. I think I told you that. I forgot. That's another change I made. I added wave makers to my tanks because I didn't have them before. And I use feeding dishes for my seahorses that are in the display tank, especially. I don't broadcast feed because there's too many nooks and crannies. I have live rock in there. So I actually turn off the wave maker when I feed them because I found that if I don't, it blows the food everywhere. And so when I'm feeding them, I turn off the wave maker. But the seahorses, they will still scatter the food because they get in the food dish and flutter around and food goes everywhere. So they broadcast feed themselves.
Right.
And for that, I have a few peppermint shrimp and a goby and a mandarin dragonet that are my cleanup crew, and they take good care of that, and some crabs and things. And then I come in and siphon up out of the dishes every time I feed them, but not out of the sand. Now, the sand I siphon once a week when I do the tank cleaning, and it's not that bad. And I think mostly it's because of how fine the sand is, like we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't trap the food, so the cleanup crew does a pretty good job with it. And then it's easy for me to get the rest. But the sand doesn't blow anywhere, from the current. But if I fed that way with the wave maker on, food would go all over the place in there.
Right.
It depends on how the tank's set up and how many seahorses you've got in there. I have a tank right now that's got a sand substrate. It's super fine sand. And the only problem is I put a power head in there because it was too strong. But I corrected that. But I broadcast feed. But again, with everything bare bottom except for one tank, I don't have to worry about leftovers because it's really easy.
See it?
Yeah, you can see it. And I just turn on a small power head or wave maker, let it blow it to one corner, and takes me less than 5 minutes to siphon everything off. They're quick maintenance.
Well, and Dan made the points earlier. First of all, if you're using a finer sand, the food doesn't have as much of a chance to get trapped down in it. That's the big. Well, that's what I always worry about with crushed coral or anything, that the food's gonna get lost in there, and where cleanup crew can't get it, and it's just decaying and leading to problems. And also, wow, I just totally lost it. But I did want, yeah, I did just lose the second thought. Sorry. But Marina, how about you? How do you adjust flow with sanded in the tank?
I just sort of leave the flow on constantly. There's always quite a bit of flow.
But I mean, you can't have it near the sand, right? Because it would turn it up.
Yeah, so I have the wave makers at the top of the tank, and they kind of make a gyra.
Gotcha.
So there's flow going over the bottom, across the top of the sand, but not enough to stir it up.
Gotcha.
But I broadcast food as well, but I've got a lot of things in there to.
Did you walk, hey, Marina? Did you walk away from your? We couldn't hear you for a sec.
Is that better now?
Yes, ma'am.
I broadcast feed, but I have a lot of peppermint shrimp and asari snails and some other little fish to help catch the excess as well.
Yep.
So I think that helps.
Well, I was going to say the one thing I miss the most. I know Ray doesn't do any cleanup crew, but I miss the Nacerius snails. I love those little guys. I mean, the little dudes that get in the sand and twirl around, and their little, looks like elephant snout sticks up. I love them, and you can't have them without sand. So totally with you. Sorry for all the background noise, guys.
What's really funny is when you watch the Nacerius snails and you go to feed, and all of a sudden you can see them coming out and heading toward the food when you're actually feeding it to the seahorses. They aren't shy. They're my favorite snack.
Yep, I'm turning off my phone now. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I was rushing to get us back live, and so I didn't do the headset, so you're hearing everything. Yay. We'll be better next week. But anyways, who was speaking? Someone was. Nope, maybe not. So what else? What else do we need to discuss, guys? Because I don't want to... Okay, all right, you guys talked me into it. I'm going to say it. I followed Cheryl's lead. She talked so many Wine Wednesdays about the gorgeous sunburst and orange seahorses that she got from Ocean Rider that I went ahead and talked to them and got some myself. So now I am personally also, along with Holly and Cheryl, trying out the Vibrants. I got the red shrimp, which were really cool. And I talked to Susan, who is propagating them, and I'm like, oh man, I want to follow you and do that because that's so cool. I've been texting Cheryl nonstop this week for advice on how to use the Vibrants. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to chat about it. But I will tell you, I am personally shocked. I know that, color supposedly can't be bred into seahorses, and I'd love to hear Dan's thoughts. And I'll say this, and it's very interesting because I got 2 yellow and 2 orange seahorses, right? So on the 2 yellow, the male is this ridiculous bright yellow, and the female has paled off, and she looks just like her tank mate Aphrodite. She's this pale. She's still yellowish, more yellow than Aphrodite, who's from Holly, but she's not bright yellow, right? And I think it does come down to personal seahorse personalities. The orange is the exact opposite. In the orange tank, the male has turned this like pink color, whereas the female is this bright orange. So first, Cheryl, have you seen any of that? Or have they all stayed bright?
All of mine have stayed bright. But again, it may be the way the tank's set up, everything's red, orange, or yellow edges. It's a low light system. And plus the fact, I think they kind of feed each other. One stays particularly yellow. Like I've got 3 males right now, and all 3 of them are staying very brilliant yellow. One has silver saddles, the other 2 do not. And the one male, the only time he lightens up at all is when he's courting one of the females. And then he turns it kind of almost, the only way I can describe it is a silver yellow.
Gotcha.
But that's only when he's courting.
Well, the most interesting thing... Yeah, the most interesting thing to me too is that I told you guys at the beginning of this that I had to do some swapping because I had 2 males and a female in the all-in-one tank, right? And so I don't want to overload the tank. I'm already having difficulties keeping a smaller tank good. In the all-in-one, I've had trouble with top off and whatever. Anyways, bottom line is, so I put the 2 very dark males from Seahorse Source in with the 2 orange in the 65. And then I have the 2 yellows with the Aphrodite from Holly. And what's interesting is the 2 males from Seahorse Source have significantly lightened. And I do have rock in the tank, in both tanks. So that might be a key factor. And I do have blue backgrounds. But does that surprise you, Dan, that your boys lightened up?
No.
So you're just like, no, stuff happens, it doesn't, whatever.
Well, I mean, they can change whenever they want to. That's why I'm not a fan of buying seahorses based on color.
Right.
And when you change something in the tank, that can lead to a change in color. It can be, adding 2 seahorses. In fact, if you watch sometimes, what I've seen is that sometimes you'll have what I call the dominant horse of the tank who influences the color of everybody else.
Ooh.
And you can add or delete that seahorse and have a huge impact on the coloration. But just changing the decor, changing the, adding a new specimen, I mean, any of these things can lead to a change in colors.
Yep, and I like that dominant seahorse, and That means in at least this tank, it's the female. I really like that. Go ahead.
That won't last. That'll change.
That's
Yep.
how my throw out tank is. The biggest seahorse in there is that female that I call Princess that likes to be really white.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm finding is that other seahorses are starting to like her hitch. She used to hang out there all alone.
Mm-hmm.
It was her place. And other seahorses are starting to come and hang out with her there. And they're starting to lighten up to
Mm-hmm.
white. But all of them are starting to travel around the tank more and hang out in different places where they didn't hang out before. And I've added a really bright red fake coral to the mix. I put it kind of like as a feeding station. There's feeding spots around it. So I've got more hanging out there. They're starting to get away from the return nozzle, which was their favorite spot for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and start to hang out more places. So they're turning more colors and they're more interested in each other because they're starting to figure out who they are as far as male and female.
Yep.
There's only 2 males in that tank and 6 females. And one male has really figured out he's a male. And
He's the one that's bugging everybody.
Today I was watching him and he has figured out I have several spots in that tank where I feed them because there's so many. They have a lot of different dishes and places to feed. And he has figured out that he can split his meal between the females and go from feeding station to feeding station and have breakfast or lunch, with a different crowd every few minutes. So he's going around flirting with everybody at mealtime.
Jeez. Well, I do want to say for the record that I am definitely not trying to be a proponent of buying seahorses for color. I'm right there with Dan. They'll change. They can change. Cheryl has her stuff down pat. She knows what to do to make them do what she wants them to do. Whereas I'm more experimenting. But I do think it will be interesting. I've been messaging Dan and Cheryl all week for like little tips. And I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens when I do run out of the vibrance. Because I have been trying the soaking the food. You haven't noticed a difference, or you have, Holly?
Well, I wanted to ask about the vibrance. How long does the frozen mysis need to soak in the vibrance for it to soak in? Does anybody?
I usually give it about 10 minutes.
Okay.
But the thing is, when it's ready to be fed, you can actually see the shrimp
Turn red.
Actually turn red.
Now, I have a question for Dan in that, though. Wait. I want to know from Dan, since we typically advise people once they feed seahorses, we've talked endlessly about don't leave food thawing on the counter. You wouldn't want to do that to your own shrimp that you're going to eat as a person. And so I've been following that regimen also, maybe 5 minutes, not 10. But is there a fear that, or is there a worry that even soaking the food would lead to it degrading as it sits? Or are we good?
Not if you're doing it for a short period of time. I mean, even defrosting your food on the counter is not a bad thing, provided as soon as it's defrosted, you do something with it.
Okay. Well, I just know, like we say, even after you feed it, don't give them more. Don't leave it in the tank more than so long. You don't want them to eat old food. So.
Well, the purpose of that is not so much old food as it is food getting on the bottom and becoming colonized with bacteria.
Gotcha. And that's another thing that I just want to bring up about, would that be different if there was sand in the tank? Because I noticed in the all-in-one that I think might be some of the things that I'm having problems or had problems with, because I do see it gets just like the sides, but worse because it's the bottom. It gets covered really quick with like a film. And you think about it, if that food lands on that film, they're sucking up the film too, right?
Right, but that film also covers the sand.
Okay. Bummer.
It's a biofilm.
Well, I don't like biofilm. But anyways, go on. Sorry. I'm just pretty. Go ahead, Holly. Sorry.
I was going to say, so the way I've been using the vibrance is because I'm in a hurry in the mornings. I get ready for work and all this. I don't have time to let it sit forever. So what I do is I take their frozen mysis, and I put it in the strainer. I rinse it, under the sink so it's thawed, and then I set it in a little Tupperware with barely a little bit of salt water in the bottom so it's damp. And then I sprinkle on the vibrants and I put it in the refrigerator and
Oh,
I let it soak in. But I don't have that much time, like I said, to let it sit. So I'm going to say it's probably in there 5 minutes for the seahorses in the display tank, and maybe like 15 minutes for the ones in the grow out tank because it takes me a while to get to them. But it's in the refrigerator so it's cold, as it's soaking.
that's a good
And
idea.
when I get it out, they're like a light pink color, and the water has a red tinge.
It depends on whether you're using vibrance one or vibrance two.
Mm.
And I use both, but it's kind of the same thing with either, I've noticed.
Well, wait, I want to give you my thoughts too, but Cheryl, what's the difference between 1 and 2?
Well, the vibrance one is actually supposed to be a series of things like vitamin C, spirulina, stuff like that. The vibrance two is supposed to be basically a lipid supplement. Um, so they're technically doing two different things. Again, I'm not convinced of
You're testing.
how valuable they really are.
Right, you're testing.
But I am seeing very rapid growth rate in seahorses that I got. They are maintaining very bright colors, and they are perpetual motion. So I'm not going to argue with it at this point.
Right, we're still testing, absolutely, and I can back that up in Holly. I would say the thing I think I was doing wrong at first is I was putting too much water in. Like literally now I use a couple drops of water so that literally and I mix it up and the stuff really and they look red, and not just the seahorses from Ocean Rider but the seahorses from everywhere like go after them like they're real. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, it's one of those things too. Basically, what they're doing at OR is they're taking it out, they're using a large quantity. They actually use a handheld blender, blend it up. Then they thaw out the mysis shrimp in a small amount of liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a small enough tweezer size handheld blender to be able to do it that way.
I remember you told me to do that too to feed Artemia because I did get them a treat, and I wasn't able to. I just fed it the regular way, and I'll tell you, the Artemia turned bright red. It was ridiculous. But yeah, the other thing I would say is back to the point that Dan's made repeatedly, and Marina, we got to get to you. I keep running my mouth, but I do notice no matter how little water I use, no matter how long I try to get it out of the water, like you don't want to re-rinse it, but it does give off a lot of puff smoke when it just hits the tank. A lot of that stuff comes right off. Now the shrimp do stay red, so I know it's soaking something up. Something's working, but Lord help me, how much am I adding to the organics, especially in a smaller tank, Dan?
It says on the thing that it doesn't pollute the tank. I don't know if that's true or not, but in the sheet that talks about it, it says it's not bad for the tank.
I think it would depend on how much you're actually unloading into the tank and stuff.
Well, if maybe I'm adding too much because when I'm ghetto, guys. I use a knife and scoop it out of the thing, and then I dump it, and then I use a turkey baster and I suck it up and try to, throw it at the seahorses, and they gobble it up, but you can see a cloud. So am I using too much?
It sounds like you may be. It does not take very much. I'm talking like a pinch.
Well, maybe that's why my seahorses are like fat. I mean, they're fat, But
so am mine.
But yeah. Dan, did you hear me? I was curious about your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on what? I'm sorry, I was
Nope.
I'm multitasking.
I know you are, and I appreciate when you come. No, just that I'm personally like it's been a week, guys. I can't, yeah, I can't give. We're all experimenting with this stuff, but my question was, should I worry, or do you not know much about Vibrance 2? And the 2 is what I'm talking about. That's supposed to have the lipids, but when I soak the mysids, when I feed it to Artemia, that's a different story. I know I'm rambling, guys. When I feed it to Artemia, that's one thing, or live mysids. But when I soak frozen mysids in it, that's always been the big fear. You don't want to soak things in things because it just comes right off. And I can tell you, after putting it into the tank, I do see a puff cloud of stuff, but then the shrimp also stay red. So, what are your thoughts?
Using this
Well,
much.
if it was me, if I was going to attempt to do things that way, I would, after I soak the myces in whatever enrichment, whether it be vibrance or anything else, I would rinse it afterwards before I used it in tank.
Mm.
Okay, so
Okay.
whatever got into the myces is there, and the majority of it that's going to come out in the water is already taken off, so I'm not polluting the water. Now,
like it.
when a seahorse is snick and you see that cloud, even with regular myces, you're going to see that cloud. So I don't put a lot of credence into that. That's part of the organic loading of the tank and the nature of the beast. Roughly, what they say, 10% of what goes in their mouth comes out through the gills.
Right.
Um, so that's going to happen no matter what. But I would be inclined to rinse the food, not maybe vigorously, but I would at least rinse it lightly to take a bunch of the excess stuff off.
I saw Cheryl laughing. I'm seeing some memes. What goes in the mouth comes out. No, okay. Anyways, but no.
So I'm using this amount. If you can see what this actually is a food spoon for sea monkeys.
Oh wow.
So it's a tiny bit. So I'm sprinkling
it does not
that.
take much.
So I'm sprinkling that on them when they're in the little strainer, and they sit in that for a few minutes in the Tupperware with a tiny bit of water. But then the way I feed's with a turkey baster. So when I pull them out, I dump that red water out, put fresh salt water in, and use the turkey baster to suck them up. But there's still enough of that red in there that, like you said, I'm getting like red water puffs coming out of the turkey baster when I feed them.
Yes, and that's what I meant. Not out of the
That's what you're
seahorse gills,
talking
but out of the
about. Yeah,
baster. Right.
exactly. So yeah, I've wondered about that too. I'm like, is that polluting the tank or? But it says in the sheet, it says not to worry about that. But
Well,
I
no.
always
Well,
worry about it, so
the thing is, I want Cheryl to respond to that. But what that makes me think is they're saying there's nothing bad in it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's all good. In fact, I think I read something about it helps them even in the tank too. But it still leads to organics. So,
yeah,
period.
that's what my
So,
thoughts are.
Cheryl, do you not see a puff when you throw it in the tank? Not a puff, but like a cloud of red.
I don't. But the thing
Okay.
is, the difference is, I soak it in water, the vibrance in water, in a very small amount of water. Then I add the cube that I'm going to feed. It's not going to be a cube, but I add the mysis shrimp. This one is still frozen. And I actually stir it and cover it with a tiny amount of the vibrance.
Yep.
Before I feed it, then I drain it.
Okay. I think I missed the draining part at the end. You've helped me so much this week, but I think I missed that part. So now I know. Now I know.
If I was going to use that, I would do that very much the way I used to do all my additives for seahorses, and that's using adult Artemia. I would gut load that and give it to them. I'm going to get much more in them and be much more effective at the delivery method than trying to put it on top of mice.
Exactly.
And what was interesting to me though is I actually did do that this week, and I contacted you, Dan. I'm just making it public so anyone who cares can learn from it. But one of the things that I always worry about with adult Artemia is if I haven't raised them and I don't want to say don't trust the company, but just don't know, if they've been in with whatever. Dirty Artemia is the last damn thing you want in your Seahorse tank. So we talked a little bit on the phone about hydrogen peroxide. And so can we just really quickly, and then I got to get to Ray and Marina, but can we really quickly say, can you repeat what you said to me about when you should use the peroxide dip, how, and that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I can, but first let me say this.
Yes.
If you're going to buy Artemia, if it's not being shipped to you and you're buying at a local store, find out when their delivery day is and pick it up on the day of delivery. Don't wait, because most stores don't do a good job of cleaning out their tanks. They usually have in too small of a container, and it goes good to crap in a matter of a very short period of time. So I highly recommend getting it when it's delivered, not waiting. As far as sterilizing the Artemia using peroxide, the process is still the same way. You can do it the same way you do the Napiai, and that is to put them in a container with some aeration, add the peroxide, let it bubble for a couple of minutes, and then pull the thing out, and then the Artemia will go dive to the bottom, and the junk will go to the top, and then you can just either siphon or, like me, just turn the drain on and drain out the Artemia and rinse them, and they're ready to go. Now, the amount that you use really depends upon what strength you have. 35% takes 20 mLs per liter, and if you buy the clear developer, 40 volume clear developer, which is equal to 12% peroxide, it's 60 mLs for 1 liter. And I'd have to sit down and calculate how much 3%, but it's a lot.
Right, and you helped me with that, and I did go get the developer. And the other point I just wanted to make clear is, if you're using an enrichment, you use it first and do the peroxide right before you feed.
Afterwards.
Oh, you do it. Oh, maybe I got that wrong. Whoops.
Well, now as far as the research goes in terms of how effective the peroxide is, you can go either way.
Okay.
But my thought process is that I want them clean while they're feeding. So I want as clean of environment as possible while they're feeding on stuff. I don't want them feeding on bacteria.
Right, and I think when I talked to you, they were already here. It was a done deal. I had to figure it. They were already feeding on the vibrance, so you were helping me in that case. I get it. So.
I have a friend that I've known for well over 30 years. He has a local fish store. Every Thursday, between 1 and 2, he gets in a shipment of adult brine shrimp. If I need brine shrimp, I call him. What time are they going to be there? Or are they there yet? And I go and he opens the bag and they come in. But I'm taking them. And that's how I get mine. If I'm going to feed brine shrimp.
Well, yeah, that point is crucial. Get them, find out when they're delivered, get them then, because you're gonna do a better job because you care more than any store. Before I don't mean to change subjects, and I really hope I'm literally watching my little orange seahorse swim across the tank with a black seahorse. So I really hope you check out my posts and check out my new seahorses and make sure you're checking out everything to do with the MACNA events. It's a week away, guys. I'm going to be posting like crazy this week, showing you everything you can get and everything we're going to cover, so make sure you're there. But Ray, I did want to come to you real quick. You've been patient. Tell me about the abdominalis.
About the which?
What's going on with your abdominalis?
Oh, I don't know. He eats like a pig, and yet he's pinching in on the side, just right immediately above the pug. And it's very obvious. Like, you just take a glance and you can see that it's pinched in. But the female doesn't eat as much, and yet she's fat as all get out.
So probably a silly question, but to Dan, does that indicate worms? I mean, could that even happen when he's had them forever?
Could be. I mean, it would have to be something like a tapeworm, and the question is, can you get a hold of Praziquantel? That was what I would use.
But usually, if they have that situation, then the feces is not coming out normal.
True.
Well, no, it can still come out normal with the tapeworm.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, the tapeworm is not going to be passing through like the other kind of worms.
But how could that even happen? Ray, you've had these seahorses forever, right?
A little over 5 years.
5 years? How would he all of a sudden have a worm? Or is he
It
just
wouldn't
getting
be all
old?
of a sudden. It would have been a long-term thing.
So over 5 years, that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's not. I wouldn't say it's high in the probabilities, but I think it's, given the description, it's worth a dose of praziquantel. A single dose of praziquantel would be enough to kill a tapeworm.
Can you get praziquantel, Ray?
Not that I'm aware of without going to that.
Would I get in big trouble if I mailed you some?
Sorry?
Would I get in big trouble if I mailed you some? I'm asking. Nobody come.
You might not get across the border.
Well, maybe I'll try. Nobody come for me. All right. Anyways, go ahead.
One more thing that's worth mentioning. I was at a convention last weekend and talking with companies about drugs, um, specifically for other animals. But the subject of antibiotics we were discussing, and apparently the government, as of June of 2023, their intent is to have all antibiotics off the market without a prescription.
Jeez.
And that's for all the, you won't be able to buy fish antibiotics or go to the feed store and buy it, for other animals. They're supposedly that it's in the works to remove them completely from the market.
I get it, but dang it.
Well,
I mean,
I get it too, but I got to tell you, I'm watching, every day people coming in the store asking for medication. Right now we're selling the crap out of ivermectin because of COVID. And the unfortunate thing is that 90% of the people that come in asking for it have no clue how to use it, how much, how to calculate the dosage. When people come in and buy the fish antibiotics for themselves, um, once again, they don't know which, they just, they come in asking for penicillin, and I start asking them questions about what they have and what they're going to use it for. And these people have no clue which antibiotic to use and what dosing to go with. And that creates a lot of problems out on the market. And it's people like that that are creating the problem.
Right.
I mean, come on. Ivermectin for COVID? Give me a break.
Well, there's 63 studies that show efficiency of it working.
Right.
I've been hearing a lot that it's hurting a lot of people.
Well, the people that it's hurting are the people that idiots like I'm talking about. I mean, when you come in and you mega dose yourself, you're going to feel like crap. But studies show that it's relatively safe, and call early, and early treatment is shown to have, it's not a cure, but it reduces the symptoms and speeds up the process. So there's a crap load of studies out there on it, and if you listen to the media, you're going to hear one side, but go read the studies, and you'll see that that there is something to it. Having said that, coming
You can't do it yourself. Right.
Well, you can if you know the proper dosing and have the right form, but people are coming in buying the paste for horses. The problem there is that, number one, calculating out, a 1.87% solution, and secondly, a paste is not uniform in the distribution of the medication. So, with what they need to take in such a small amount, they may or may not get what they.
Not milligrams, and people are putting it in their
medicine
nutrient cup.
I mean, that sounds like just the same as like with seahorses getting the fenbendazole. I know I always say that wrong, but if you get the gel or whatever, or anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the COVID dose is 4 to 6 micrograms per kilogram, and trying to calculate that out off the tube for the horses is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, I get too much of it.
Well, unfortunately, most of these people are either not getting enough or they're overdoing it, and the people that are overdoing are the ones that are having problems. And they put, we've seen it before with the chloroquine phosphate, where the people bought it for the fish and megadosed themselves and killed themselves.
Well, drink bleach.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we're not going to go there. Sorry, I'm dealing with a kid on the side. But I wanted to say a couple things because I did check the comments. Too salty. Happy birthday. I'm sorry we didn't recognize that while we were live, or while you were here. But I hope you see this later. Happy birthday. I hope your steaks are great. And just to be clear, when we're talking about vibrance, it's a in fact, I'm going to go get it and show you guys, but it's a feed supplement. It's not vibrant. Just to be clear, there's a difference. Yes, thank you, Holly.
There it is.
So it's
And did you see Salty's query about the bacterial film?
No, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to keep up. Tell me, Ray.
Question he was asking of Dan.
We'll read it.
I have to ask Dan, even with the proper cleanup crew turning the sand over, do you still believe that the film is still there?
Yeah, the film is always there on everything.
That's right.
Now, it may not be as thick as it and slimy feeling as you would on a bare surface, but yeah, there's biofilms are everywhere. I mean, in our mouth, we get biofilms on our teeth, and I mean, it's a constant thing.
Did I miss anything else, Ray? In the comments? You keep up so well.
I don't know. Some of it, my mind is just off of it, but it's just that I thought that question had to be answered. I told him that it's still there, but it'll have more effect, I think, coming from Dan.
Interesting. And I'm reading a comment. Dylan said, I always thaw my food for 10 minutes, then feed. And if I don't thaw for 10 minutes, they refuse to eat. That's interesting. Have you guys experienced that?
Nope.
No, but I always thaw mine in cold running water. So it's pretty cold still when I feed it. It's just under being frozen, I think. And they haven't had a problem with it.
Right.
Now, they did, I will say, and Cheryl knows this, they did have a problem when I first started giving them the vibrance.
Really?
They were looking at me like, especially Candy, who's a big eater. She eats everything in sight, but she was looking at me kind of like when the frozen mysis was smaller because of the winter harvest. She looked at me funny then too, like, Mom, what's this? You expect me to eat this?
Right.
It took her a while to catch on, but they're eating it now, but it took them a few days. They'd like pick at it and be like, what's this?
Right.
They were not trusting of it, or they didn't like it. I don't know which.
What's interesting to me about that is that I switched brands. I was buying from PetSmart because that's all I have in my town, and I was being cheap, and it was like Omega 1 mysis shrimp. And we talk all the time about make sure it's not brown, make sure it's not refrozen. It looks like it's been, thawed and refrozen. And I did my best, but when I went to an Indianapolis store, I went to Uncle Bill's and the Reef and got actual Hikari and PE mysids. They total difference. So I think seahorses do get used to eating what they're used to eating, and other things don't seem the same. But what were you saying, Cheryl?
Well, the thing is, they're basically a visual eater. So if they're used to eating something, there's a particular color, particular size, particular texture. You introduce something different, and they're going to go.
Well, that's my big question, though. Last one for Dan, and then I'm going to Marina because we've been ignoring her too long. Sorry, Marina. But Dan, how come seahorses actually will eat Artemia? Like, seriously, it's not a natural food to them.
Well, once they catch on that it's a food, then they gobble it up. It's interesting. When we were at IMAC one year, we did a little experiment. There was 4 or 5 of us, and we dropped some food inside of the tank. And the subject was, can seahorses smell food? Well, they don't have, according to the science, they don't have the ability to smell. But we were dropping pellets in the tank in the back, and those seahorses went nuts looking for the food.
Yep.
They didn't recognize the pellets as food, but they knew food was in the tank when we dropped that in the tank.
It may, rather than mean something olfactory, it may be something within the snout
Nope, I think they smell. I 100% agree with Dan. I think they smell, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know if they do or don't. I just know that they recognize that food had entered the tank. And, I've played with I've worked with a couple of different food manufacturers where we've tried to come up with a non-frozen food solution of something besides mices. And,
Hmm.
we've made food that was extruded to where it looked very similar to mices, if you will. And I never had success getting them to eat prepared foods like that.
And Cheryl, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying? You think it's not them smelling? Go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering if it's actually more of a taste factor, possibly, rather than an actual olfactory. Rather than being olfactory, it may be have to do with they're picking up a taste. They're seeing emotion. They're picking up a taste or a sense of a taste.
What do you mean?
Possibly.
That could be very possible.
Taste the water, yeah. I
Yeah.
can totally see that.
Because I've seen it too many times where you try something new and they're like, I ain't touching it.
Yeah, but here's my argument to that one is that I have been a terrible seahorse keeper. Not recently, of course, but I've used food that was old, that was probably shouldn't have been used, but I was out of food and I couldn't get to the store and that's all I had. And the seahorses would not eat it. I feel like they could smell that it was bad.
Well, they weren't hungry enough. If they were hungry enough or used to it, they would. But it's just like with people. You get somebody hungry enough, they'll eat things that they normally wouldn't eat.
I mean, of course, I wasn't starving them. I just think it was. I felt like it was odd that they literally were like, no, not eating it, and they didn't eat anything else until I got food the next day. So
I've had wild caughts that stayed with me for more than 7 years, and they literally would not take brine shrimp. Of course, I never tried to train with brine shrimp. I converted them to frozen. They took to the frozen right away, so there was really no need for it. But they literally flat out refused to touch brine shrimp. It was like they did not even recognize it as a possible food source.
That's
wow.
not food.
It's funny because if you remember back, Cheryl, I forgot her name. There was a girl in Washington that used to get reed eye and train them to frozen food and then sell them as being trained for frozen. And that was before captive bred reed eye were available.
Mm-hmm.
And the big knock on reed eye was how difficult they were to feed, to convert to frozen, get them to eat artemia. And, you know, during that time frame, I too had a very difficult time getting, a wild reed eye to eat anything other than my foods. And after being trained by my sister on how to convert them, I can take wild caught reed eye in a matter of 2 days, have them eat both frozen and artemia.
Part of it is how you introduce it. And I've had, when I first started working with Erectus, I had wild caughts. And initially I couldn't get them to take either frozen or brine shrimp. It took them about 2 days at the most before they were taking brine shrimp. But
Well,
my combs, no way.
no way, huh? So wait, so the combs, no way, what?
No way would they take brine shrimp.
Wow, that's
Well, the
crazy.
combs that I sent you were getting brine shrimp on a daily basis.
Wow. Well, I would say too, it's got to do with tough love, and that's something I personally suck at. Go ahead, Cheryl.
It depends on how they've been, where they came from, what they're used to, what they've been being fed.
Yep.
Their overall condition could impact how they're feeding. There's so many variables.
Yep. Well, I just want to say again that I appreciate you and Dan both, texting with me this week and helping me out, trying to figure these things out. I am making videos, and don't forget, guys, I'm going to visit Seahorse Source in December, and please believe I'll be saying, show us exactly how you do this, that, and the other. So stay tuned, because I'm going to make him show us. He might not tell us all the secrets, but I'm going to get as much as I can, I promise. And Miss Marina, What?
I'm gonna once I finish getting the nursery tanks that I'm setting up cycles again, I'm gonna start propagating amphipods.
Nice.
I was gonna ask you, where's the best place to get those for shipping as far as where I'm at, you think? If I want to order amphipods, who should I go to?
It's for your thing is most of the producers that are raising aquaculture. Well, there's Algebarn, which is in I want to say Colorado.
I think they're in Colorado.
Yeah. But check the thing is, I would just pull up amphipods for sale. I have bought in the past. What's their name? They're down in Florida.
Aquaculture Nursery. I have them written down, but they're so far away from me. I'm wondering if that's
The shipping is what kills every single order.
That's what I'm thinking.
The
I'm like,
shipping.
what's closer to me that's good?
I looked at, after I talked to Cheryl this week, I was looking at amphipods, and every single place the shipping was more than the amphipods. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I get it.
That has a reef tank, and get them to harvest a few out of there.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
in the,
have that here.
but wait, in that case,
My culture started. I just took them out of my reef tanks and put them in the culture containers with rock rubble and.
Yeah.
right, but my question with that, because I've thought of that too, it's the same as me going to the local store to get Artemia. Are you not worried that you're transferring something? Am I just an over worrier? Go figure.
Well, there's a difference in Artemia and
Amphipods?
amphipods.
What? Oh, because the Artemia take it up through their little flickeries, whereas the amphipods don't?
Yeah, first of all, the density of the cultures is quite different.
Okay.
When you're doing Artemia, at least when I'm doing them, the culture density is so heavy, and you've got so much food in there, it promotes the bacterial growth. You don't have near that kind of food concentration needed for the amphipods.
Got it.
And literally, you don't even have to do anything to make them grow other than put some spirulina in the culture container. And whenever I want to clean it out, I just put a real tiny power head in it, and it stirs everything all up, and I just suck it through siphon tube into a pail and dump the water back in afterwards. The amphipods basically are still sitting there attached to the rock rubble and everything. And once I've filtered the water out of the pail and just dump the water back in, the amphipods, they survive quite fine without having the water for a minute.
My only problem with amphipods is the ones that get away and get down in my sumps end up playing in my filter socks. And they do not like coming out of filter socks.
Oh boy. Well, what I was gonna say, guys, is Reef Nutrition. I know I keep bringing it up, but the event's in a week. Make sure you're registered for the Seahorse and Pipefish event at Macna. Reef Nutrition has a gift card giveaway, $100 you can win to Reef Nutrition.
That's mine.
Cheryl wants it. So you got to be there. You got to be registered. You got to attend to win.
I need to order some Aphanamensis pods from them. Yeah, just give it to me.
No, I can't do that. But what I was going to say is Chad will be there also. He's not actually a speaker at this event, but he will be there for our open chat time at the end, and we can hound him to maybe we could get them to start doing some amphipods. That would be nice. Right? So
they had talked about it or doing it a while back, and I'm not sure what, possibly because they got a competition for it with some of the other smaller producers, with suspicion of what may not have been cost effective. I don't know for sure. They would be able to answer that better than you. I do know that he's done a lot of work with Aphanamensis pods and for things like Lehigh fry, combs.
It's amazing.
Magic fry. They are the easiest pod I have ever raised.
Yep. And I all I'm saying is, everybody, I'm not below telling you, come on, come to the event so we can give him a hard time. That's all I'm saying, right? So, Marina, I want to real quick go to you. We're going to have to end soon. We've been going almost, well, we had the technical difficulties, but I'm stopping at 10 either way because I got to talk to Dan afterwards and I know he's tired. So, Miss Marina, I wanted to ask, what's new with you? Were you just joining tonight to hang out, or did you have anything to share with us, or what's up?
Mostly to hang out. I've been wanting to jump back in for ages, but I've been working on it's Thursday morning or nearly Thursday afternoon here for us, so it's the daytime, so I haven't been able to jump on. But now with our sixth hard lockdown, I'm at home on Thursday, so thought I'd jump on.
So you're locked down again.
Yes.
What does that
Yeah,
mean?
so not allowed
Australia's
to leave.
locked down.
Yeah. We have a state mandated curfew. We're not allowed to be outside of our homes after 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. the next morning. We're not allowed to be past 5 kilometres away from our houses, and we're only allowed to leave the house for medical attention, essential work, 1 hour of exercise a day, and basically like food shopping.
Okay, so and I'm guessing all the fish stores and all that are closed.
Well, very luckily, fish stores are essential because we sell fish foods and pet supplies. So anything that sells pet food is allowed to be open.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But
yes.
And while I'm very selfishly glad that you're able to come because of these things, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine if they try to do that here. I can't imagine. Is everybody taking it well?
Not really. Some people are really upset.
It's very polarizing here.
I mean, you have to go from one province area to another or another city. You may be in line trying to get in or out for several hours because of the traffic backup, and a lot of people are just saying it's a nightmare.
Marina, how do you actually feel about it? Are you good?
I'm all right. I'm not in too I'm not in. I'm quite lucky.
Oh my God, she coughed. It's COVID. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Go ahead, Marina.
I'm not too bad. I'm lucky. I still get to go on Fridays to the aquarium, my friend's aquarium, where I volunteer at, and get to be out of the house a little bit for that and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people aren't taking it well. You're not allowed to have a visitor at your home or anything like that. So that's okay. It gives us lots of time to work on our aquariums and look after our seahorses. So that's an upside.
Way to be positive. And my only other question, because we are live, I don't want to put you on the spot, but when it comes to this stuff, are you like, I can't even think how to form the question. Yeah, actually, I'm not going to ask the question. Did anybody else have any questions? Because I don't want to ask that question. Anybody?
You can still get fish food.
You can still get fish food, and my kids in the background. Sorry, go ahead, Marina.
Yes, we can still get fish food and pet food and anything that's to keep anything alive. And the first thing that they always announce here is staying open, because it's Australia, is all our bottle shops have stayed open as well.
What's a bottle shop?
Alcohol, liquor stores.
Oh, bars. Okay, got it. Liquor stores. Okay, yes, gotta have that open. Anyways, gotta have Wine Wednesday. But so like, go ahead. Someone else was talking.
Oh, I just said you better have that if you're on lockdown.
Right, and that I guess that's a question I can ask. I thought Australia only had like 1 or 2 cases. Has it gone up, or I've been avoiding the news, so.
So I'm in Victoria, and we had 80 new cases today, which is one of the highest numbers we've had since the Delta strain got here.
Right, you guys have done such a good job, in my personal opinion. Like, I understand you did not crazy, the serious lockdown, and you nipped it in the bud, and then now, like 18 cases, we have that times 200 in a state. So I can't imagine. But I mean,
Yeah, so we have 880, so 80 in
oh,
Victoria.
80, sorry.
Yeah, New South Wales, which is like across the border from us, they had, I think, 800 today.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
They've been really knocking it down. And from what I've heard from one of my friends there, it's almost impossible to get around in New South Wales.
Yeah.
Well, Chris says that Tasmania is still free. Oh, I don't know if I was supposed to say that live, but you commented it, Chris. So there you go. And he wants to know, Marina, if you're coming to MACNA. Have you registered? Put you right on the spot.
Yet, but
Tisk,
I'm
tisk.
hoping I will be at MACNA.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I will definitely put the link, guys, and I would love help sharing it, because, like I said, this might be the last time that we're virtual. So this is the time. We've got Ocean Reef Aquaculture, Seahorse Australia, Seahorse World coming. They're going to give us tours, talk to us. We're going to get to ask questions, learn more. It's going to be really cool. So make sure you're registered. Ray, are you registered?
Nope.
I'm going to show you how.
Well, it won't matter because I'm not going.
Ray?
No, I don't have any interest in. Like, there's no point in my going to something if I don't have an interest.
It's the same as this.
It's the same as what?
As this. You come every week to this, and we have fun. It's the same thing.
Well, this is a lot fewer people,
True.
and I don't make it all the time.
I know. Well, I'm not going to give you crap because I want you to keep coming, but I really do suggest that anyone out there that is interested in seahorses come, because it will be like this, and we're going to have a good time, and we've got some really awesome guests. Make sure you check out the posts that I do talking about the guests and the giveaways. Cheryl's coming because she wants that reef nutrition.
Hey, Dan, are you going to be there?
Where?
MACNA.
Where?
Everybody's tired.
Hello.
Here we go, Kelly.
I probably won't. I know for the weekend I'm working, and I've got several projects in the works from work that got me tied up for the most part.
So, anyways, it's going to be really awesome. Ignore these two farts and and just come. Dang it. But no, I totally get it. People are busy. But this is the time. It's the last virtual event. So make sure to check the links. And yeah. Anyways, anybody else?
No, I don't drink wine.
It's not wine on MACNA. You come to Wine Wednesday. Jeesh, Ray. No, I love that you come. I don't care how or why you come. But anyways, Marina, I'm just glad you were able to join, and that you, I hope you do in the future. And I hope you're at the MACNA event, because we need help sharing and telling the Aussies that it's the event to come to, for sure.
Yeah.
But okay, guys. Well, if you have anything else, shout it out, because I am going to end it. We've got 7 minutes till 10, and I'm going to have to call it. So anybody else have anything, or should I say goodnight?
Make your daughter
Go walk my dog.
And everybody talks at once.
Everybody takes that new one.
Okay, Marina, what was your last thing?
I've got a quick question.
Yes, please.
Back to sort of when we're talking about food.
Yes.
I've actually fed my seahorse, and she's eaten it a few times. Small pieces that I've cut up of prawn for her.
Of what?
Prawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prawn?
So like table shrimp.
Yeah.
I'd have eaten that too.
Go ahead, Marina.
And
When I was trying to feed somebody else.
It just made sense, because it's still very similar to shrimp, but
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
Would there be anything wrong with that?
That's a Dan question. Or Ray.
What's the question again?
Like prawn. John's table shrimp?
Yeah.
Like if seahorses will eat it, is that something that they can eat, or is it really not good for them nutrition wise?
Thank you, Holly.
I don't see where it would be a problem. The problem would be getting them to eat it.
Mine
And-
will eat it.
Well, I've seen
them eat it.
I have shelled
Mine
krill and
also.
chopped krill for them, and had my seahorses take that quite readily.
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah.
See, I shredded mine. I was feeding my other fish. I was feeding the goby and the peppermint shrimp one day. But see, my seahorses, they didn't keep eating it. They were curious about it. They came and tried it and sniffed it. And one ate a really big piece. I couldn't believe it. But
I found if I
They
tried
didn't
feeding
keep
the
eating
krill
it.
without removing the shell, they wouldn't touch it. But my problem is the pain to sit there and shell these 20, 25 little bitty krill and then chop them up.
Hmm. And so, Marina, I'm curious though. So you're saying that you chopped it up and the seahorses ate it as pieces?
Yeah, I've done it a few times. I made it like I cut it into like little wormy looking bits. But all the fish ate it. But
yeah,
my seahorse, she also eats she eats the like little frozen cocoa pods that I put in and the
Wow.
frozen invert food. She sort of eats
everything.
she eats fish eggs when you put fish eggs in. She's not so fussy.
And she's from Seahorse, Australia, right?
Yes.
There you go, guys. Good seahorses from Seahorse, Australia. I got to keep bringing it up. I'm not trying to make this an ad. I'm sorry. Anyways, but no, that's really
you
fascinating to me, and I think because my seahorses.
Kelly, are you buying the seahorses for us from Australia?
I sure wish I could, and maybe we'll hear at the event why their seahorses are not coming to the U.S. currently. Wink, wink. Let's look and find out. Go and find out. But
Friday.
But Marina, I think that's. I feel like I'm screaming. Sorry. I feel like that's really a cool thing. When I've run out of food, I've tried different things, and my seahorses are picky and won't eat anything that Like I feel fortunate they'll eat brine shrimp and frozen mysids because I've never had it. So what I'm saying is we need you to breed that seahorse because obviously she's like, I'm gonna eat anything. Let's go. So we need more like her.
That way too, I bet.
Yeah.
I think it was Candy actually that ate that. Yeah, because what I did was I took one of those prawns that's already ready to eat out of the freezer. I defrosted it and I cut it up with scissors. I was using it to feed my other fish, and yeah, the seahorses tried it too.
Well, if anybody in the audience has tried feeding foods like this, I want to hear about it. How did it work out for you? Let us know. We want to know. But Marina, I think you're doing good and you're experimenting, and the more you learn, the more we can make seahorses not more easier to take care of in the tank. So I think that's great. And you have to keep us updated.
Will
Yeah,
do.
wondering if it's good for them. I mean, if they will eat it, if it's nutritious for them, that's a lot easier.
Right. That is the last question, Dan, Cheryl, Ray.
Is it nutritious?
Yeah. Does it have the lipids? Do we know?
I think you'll find that the profile is going to be very similar.
Nice.
Interesting.
That's what I was sort of hoping, just that it's sort of just like a big shrimp, because all the frozen mysis and brine, we can get it here enriched with spirulina, which I'm not sure that that's too helpful for a seahorse, but all the frozen food we have here is actually been radiated,
Right.
whereas I have access to fresh seafood, so it seems like that is maybe a better option than the radiated frozen.
I don't know that the radiated frozen is such a bad thing. And the spirulina is actually a good thing. It's high in protein, but it's also got some other things in it that are hard to quantify. But would you have algae type products you're getting some other micronutrients in the animal that they would be getting in the wild that you don't get from frozen mysis.
But you think the radiation's good?
Well, it's a way of sterilizing it before they package it.
Doesn't it lose a lot?
No, not the way they do it.
Really?
I think Chris wants in, and I'm going now to walk the dog, so I'll be gone.
Okay, and guys, actually, oh gosh. Okay, I'm gonna let Chris in, but I'm giving you guys 5 minutes. I gotta cut this because I gotta talk to Dan afterwards.
Well,
Sorry.
you wanted to join the after party anyway.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and call it for tonight. Apologies, I do tape the after party, wink wink, so if it's really educational, I promise to post it. Either way, everybody say bye because we're gonna do a Happy Wine Wednesday and be back next week with better technical not difficulties. Everybody say bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Happy Wine Wednesday, everybody. Cheers.
See you later.